The day has come where it's time to review the Solo Stove Lite. What I have here is the Solo Stove Lite and the 900 milliliter pot. Let the review begin. So to start off here, let's take a look at the system itself. It comes with this outer storage bag. And inside of that, you have the 900 milliliter stainless steel pot. Take the lid off. And here you have the stove. As you can see, this also has a storage bag. For $105 on Amazon at the time of filming, this is what you get. You get the pot, you get the stove, and you get 2 storage bags. And let's say that you want to purchase the stove by itself, this is $65. If you want to buy the pot itself, this is $35. The weight of the entire kit is 17.6 ounces. The weight of the stove itself is 8.3 ounces. The weight of the pot is 8.6 ounces. Each one of these storage bags is right around half an ounce. And both of these are made from 304 stainless steel. When you have the stove and you put the support up, the height of this is 5.7 inches. And it has a width of 4.25 inches. With the Solo Stove Lite, this is a small version of the larger size Solo stoves which have been out on the market for a very long time. This is a Gasifier Stove, which essentially means that it's a very efficient wood burning stove. I've been testing this out for the last 6-7 months. I've been using this very often, and my review is very straight and simple. There's some pros, there's some cons. I will talk about both. Before I do, let's get a fire going. It's coffee time. You all are about to see how this stove works, and I get some coffee out of this deal. It's a win-win. With a stove like this, when you get it started, it burns from the top down. So put the larger pieces of wood in the bottom, smaller pieces of wood at the top. If your materials are nice and dry, and you've done a good job of building a nest inside of this, you could get this going with one match. So that looks pretty good. That was a dud. So with a stove like this, it is important that you keep feeding it, which happens to be quite a bit of fun, to be honest. But it takes time and it takes attention. If you aren't diligent about feeding this stove, it will take a long time to boil your water or to cook your food. With the design of this stove, you have air holes at the bottom. Air is sucked in and pulled up. That really does make this very efficient. You have a feeding port right here, which is very large. Looking here at the pot for a second, you have butterfly handles. You do have a grab tab up here at the top, which is stainless steel as well, so you don't have to worry about it melting. It has a piece of rubber here at the top, and this can be locked into place so that it doesn't fall over. That's a smart design. You can lay it down, of course, for when you're stowing it, and lock it into place when you're boiling water. If you are familiar with the channel, you know that I drink nothing but the good stuff when it comes to coffee. Yes, it causes left side weakness, but after you drink it, you can run super fast. Because the handles are stainless steel, you have to be careful when grabbing them. Luckily, they are high enough up on the pot and away from the flames that in most cases, you can grab them safely. It's all about positioning. Which way is the wind blowing? Which way is the flame going to go? That sort of thing. Now that my incredibly good coffee is done, let's go ahead and remove the pot support and let's put some more wood inside of this. You can see everything that's in here is essentially turning to ash as we speak. We might as well get started with the review. Let's start with the pros here. This stove is very efficient. It will go through your wood very quickly with very little smoke. Also, when it comes to lighting this stove, it is exceptionally easy. Much easier than most gasifier stoves. On the channel here, over the years, I've reviewed many gasifier stoves, and some can be finicky to get going. Not this one here. If your materials are even remotely dry, this thing will take off. It's easy to use, it's fun to use. I like feeding the beast. It's a fun stove to use. The size for this entire setup here is not bad. It's reasonable. It's not the largest of stoves, it's also not the smallest. I do like the fact that 2 storage bags are included, so you can keep your pot clean from your stove. There's that separation there. Also, because we have the storage bags, the system is silent. There's very little rattle from this kit when you're hiking around. Next up, we have to talk about fuel. The fuel is free, it's all around you. That's not bad. In terms of quality, I've had no issues at all. This is a very well-made system. I would call this heavy duty, without a doubt. Also, I've had no issues with the storage bags either. The quality is good. You all can see here, as I go through this review, just how hungry this stove can be. As soon as you take your attention off of this stove, it needs to be fed. I've gone over quite a few pros already. Let's talk about the cons. First off, let's talk price. $105 for the stove and for the pot is expensive. These products are made in China, and I personally would like to see the prices a little bit lower. Yes, they are heavy duty, but let's be real here. Gasifier stoves can be found all day long for around $25, and the quality of those stoves is very good. Now, I will say this, the quality of this one is a step up. One step up. Also, it's easier to light than some of those that are out on the market. But there is a big difference between $25 and $65. Con number 2 is that this is one dirty stove. Your pot is going to be dirty. The stove is going to be dirty. If you don't like having dirty hands, don't buy this stove. Yes, you can do the soap trick on your pot and make cleanup nice and easy, but there's a con there. You're making your pot even more slick. Slick, extra slick, not a good idea. If you're concerned about soot, about dirt, dirty hands, dirty pot, dirty gear, don't get this stove. Move on. Next, we have to talk about the pot support system. You have the 3 legs, they work well, but this is exceptionally slick. Your pot will slip, slide all over the place, and you do need to be careful. Make sure that you have the stove on a flat surface and still be careful. The next con is that this stove takes work. It takes time, it takes attention. You are not going to light this up, walk away, come back, and your water's ready. You're going to light this up and you are going to work. This stove makes you work for it, and it's not a quick process. If you want to boil water quickly, if you want to heat up a meal quickly, if you want to cook quickly, you use a gas canister. You don't use this. Now, gas canisters, they're not much fun. This one definitely is. So you have those pros and cons there. Not only does it take time to use this stove, but you have to think about materials. You have to collect materials, and those materials have to be at least somewhat dry for this to work. Talking about speed or the lack of speed when using a stove like this, it's not only getting the fire going, but it's also letting the fire go out and allowing this to cool. It takes time. You're not going to fire this stove up, heat up your water, cook your food, and then take off. There's additional time in between all of those steps. If you are in a wet environment, I do not recommend this stove. If it has been a wet and rainy week, you may not want to take this out on the trail with you. Also, if you're going out to an area that is highly trafficked, this may not be a good option because typically those areas are picked clean when it comes to fuel. So you have to plan accordingly. Next, we have to talk about efficiency because that really is a pro and a con with a stove like this. The efficiency of the stove depends on the conditions in the environment. How windy and how damp are the materials. If it's windy, the heat gets blown away, you may want a windshield. If the materials are damp, it takes more work to get everything going. It's less efficient. So you may be wondering, how long does it take to boil water for a cup of coffee? It really depends. It is going to be different every single time. Today, it took maybe 10 minutes, something like that. Next, we have to talk about weight. If you care about weight, this is not the stove for you. The stove and the pot is over 1 pound, and that's fairly heavy for an outdoor cooking set. And of course, that doesn't include any sort of fuel. Talking about the pot here specifically for a second, I like this a lot. This is a very well-made pot. It's not super heavy. The quality is very good. It's very well thought out. You have the measurements on the outside, which you can read on the inside. The pour spout works well. Also, it vents steam once your water's boiling. You have the good grab tab. The butterfly wing handles are awesome. And you can easily hold the lid and pour just like so. I've gone over the pros and cons, might as well wrap this up. Again, this is not a stove for everyone. It is not a stove for every situation. It's not a stove that you can take everywhere. There are many locations where you cannot have a stove like this, so make sure to check rules, regulations before you head out. This stove will work better in climates and areas that are drier in nature. Here in the mountains of North Carolina, we get a lot of rain, not so much snow this year, unfortunately, but yeah, it can be challenging to use a stove like this. I mean, 1 minute it's dry, the next minute everything's soaking wet, and that would mean that this stove would be useless. So do keep that in mind. For backpacking, sure. Hiking, yes. Kayaking, canoeing, yes. Emergency use, throw it in the truck, sure. For long distance hiking, through hiking, something like that, I would say absolutely not. And for those who want to go light and quick, absolutely not. And so everyone, that pretty much wraps up my review of the Solo Stove Lite. Those are my thoughts, my opinion. Not a bad stove by any means, but there is a right time and a right place to use it. Now, with that being said, I do want to talk about something that I noticed when I was getting all of my details ready for this video. I was at the Amazon site looking at the price, and I started reading some of the reviews just to see what people had to say. And one thing that I picked up on very, very quickly was that most of those reviews looked like they were all written by the same person. They all said the exact same thing. So from there, I went to a website that analyzes Amazon reviews, and it came up with a D rating for this product. It said that the reviews were, I think they said like 30% were fake or something like that. They believe 30% to be fake at least. Just about every single one of those reviews talk about how the individual doesn't have to carry around bulky gas canisters anymore, and that this stove impressed their friends so much that they all went out and bought one. It's review after review after review. Something to keep in mind, I've mentioned this before, is that with Amazon, you never trust a review from there. You can buy reviews, and other companies can leave negative remarks that aren't true. It's a poor system, it really is. In fact, in the past, I've busted how many companies for hiring other companies to leave positive reviews for themselves. I hate that practice. I don't know if that's the case here with the Solo Stove, but I can tell you that something is way off with those reviews on Amazon. I don't like it. I really don't. Of course, I kind of understand why these companies do it, because they have to get that feedback up. They have to have the star rating. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. Of course, I could be wrong. Keep that in mind. In the end, if you want to read some funny reviews, follow my link over to Amazon. That's an agenda-free link. I don't care if you buy this. I'm not getting any money from your purchases. I don't do affiliate links, none of that stuff. I have to be honest, though. Those bought and paid for reviews really piss me off. That's so wrong. Anyways, for this episode, that is it. That is the Solo Stove Lite with the 900 milliliter pot. I like this thing. I really do. This is a great pot. And this is a good stove. Right time, right place, of course. If you have a question for me, email me. Make sure to comment down below. Share your thoughts about this stove, about the pot, and about those Amazon reviews. Go check them out. They're pretty funny. Everybody I went camping with couldn't get their stoves to work, but I was able to light some firewood. My fuel was free. Everybody went out and bought one afterwards. They're all like that. Strength and honor, guys. Have a good one. Gals too.